Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Mystical Wellness Podcast. This evening, we're joined by a really special guest who is Michael JP McManus, and he's an author with a passion for the paranormal and storytelling. Mike's published 13 books, including 215 Lexington Avenue and The Adventures of the Paranatural Detective Agency, plus his latest release, which is Natasha AI, which we're going to get into tonight. And as a lifelong spirit communicator and former paranormal investigator, Michael blends real-life encounters with creative fiction, offering a unique perspective on the spirit world and beyond. So thank you so much for joining us today, Michael. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Julia. Tickety-boo, as always.
That's brilliant. So tell us, how did things get started for you? How did you know that you had these kind of psychic senses? Where did that all start?
Well, it was when I was around about 10. No, obviously living at home, the family home. I won't say where it is, but it was in Ellesmere Port. That's it, I won't say where. And when I was about 10, I was the youngest of 6. And when we'd have our breakfast, I'd go out and get the milk off the step when the milkman used to deliver the milk in glass bottles. And this one day, I just opened the front door, which led onto the hall, and then the stairs going up, and the top of the stairs, bathroom. And I just got the milk in, shut the front door, and I just had this feeling that there was something on at the top of the stairs. And as I looked up, I saw about 5 monks going into the bathroom. And there was like, oh, that's interesting. Didn't scare me. I just thought, that's interesting. But didn't tell anyone because I thought, well, my family think I'm a bit of a nutcase anyway, even at that age. And I said, I'm not going to say nothing. And it was only when my eldest sister, Linda, kept seeing me every time I opened the front door, looking up the stairs. She said, why do you keep looking up there? I said, oh, I just saw people going in the bathroom with monks' habits on. And that was that. And when I was about 11 or 12, my dad used to always take the family, all of us, on holiday every June to Towyn. And I don't know if you've heard of Gwrch Castle in Abergele.
Yeah, because Kathy, who's joining us this evening, she's been there recently. So
that's right, brilliant. So we were there, and when it was, all nice and not derelict and what have you, and it was packed, and I just said to my dad, "Is it all right if we go outside, get some fresh air?" And he said, "Yeah." And I went out and I walked towards one of the towers, and I saw this doorway open. And me being me, went, I wonder what's up there. So I went up the stone steps up around the tower, and I got to the top, and I was looking down at the grand staircase, and I could see my dad and my sisters, and I thought, oh, this is a good way up. And this fella come out and said, what are you doing up here? You're not supposed to come up here, up them stairs. I didn't come through the tower door and look through the tower. So you couldn't have. There's no door there. So there is. I've just come through it. So he told me to go down. Said, don't go on the carpet, go down the side. I went down. And Dad said, how did you get up there? So I told him. And I said, but the fellow was calling me a liar. And he went, oh, I'm not having that. I said, well, I'm going to go back out. So I went back out and had a look. Went straight to the tower. And where I thought there was a doorway, it's bricked up. And I just thought, where's the door gone? So I walked to the next tower, no door. I thought, that's odd. I went back inside and said to my dad, I went in the doorway, it's not there, it's bricked up. I thought, was that something from a past memory or past life or something? And I just found it strange. And then when I was about 17, I was going out with this girl, and we'd been babysitting for a sister, and walked home, and my dad was watching the telly. He said, you'll have to take a candle upstairs till all the lights have fused. So I said, okay. So I went up, took a candle up, And it was a 4-bedroom house. And at the time, it was just me and my dad living there then. And put the candle in my bedroom, front bedroom, walked down the landing into the bathroom. And as I opened the doors, just saw this woman standing there. I was like, oh. And made me turn and go back in bedroom. She had I couldn't see her face. But could see long, dark hair. She had a flowery dress on and a blue cardigan. And I always remember it clearly. And I thought, that's strange. And I thought, why have I seen that? Why have I had these other experiences? So I went to the library and started getting books out on the paranormal and spirit world and all that. And it just really grabbed my attention. And then the same month, following week, I was walking back to the house with my girlfriend at the time. And she said, who's the woman looking out your bedroom window? And I looked up and I went, oh, that's weird. I said, oh, maybe my dad's got a lady friend and she's looking for a taxi or something. But when we got there, the house was locked up. And it was in that hot summer of 76, where it was up, very, very hot. And back door was locked, open, unlocked it, went up, no one in. Went in my bedroom, it's freezing cold. It was like walking into a freezer. And my girlfriend went, where is she? I went, there's no one here. The curtain was pulled across, over. And I said, there's no one here. She said, I saw her. I said, yeah, I did. I said, but I saw her last week in the bathroom. And she went, who is she? I said, I think she's a ghost. And she went, boom, down the stairs and out the house.
That's hilarious.
I won't be long. I'll just get ready because we were going out. And then the third time I saw her, I was in bed and I was tossing and turning, couldn't sleep. I was lying on my back and I just seen her hovering over me. Do you remember that film, The Woman in Black?
No, but I'm sure some people here will, yeah.
The Woman in Black, where it was a TV film, but I knew remade it a while ago with Daniel Radcliffe. But in that, he's in bed, tossing and turning, and as he opens his eyes, this ghost woman in black's coming towards him, and I thought, she looks like the Woman in Black. And I just shouted, go away. And the next day I got up, my dad said, you have a nightmare last night, son? I said, why? He said, I heard you shouting. I went, oh, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I can't remember. But I didn't want to say nothing. And it wasn't until years and years and years later, I was working in Bromborough, in the Quickie in Bromborough, and Linda lived across the road. And I told her about this, because I'd never told anyone at all. And the next day she went to see my dad, and she said, oh, Mike told me a weird thing. He saw a woman years ago. And he went, oh, the one with the long dark hair, long black hair, the flowery dress and the blue cardi. And she went, oh, do you know? He said, she used to sit in the end of my bed and he used to tell us to go away.
Oh, that's incredible.
That confirmed it totally for me. I thought, I never told my dad. He never told me. He was probably thinking, if I tell on my dad, he'd probably think I'm mad. I'm not telling my dad. So that was that house. And then when I got married, lived still in Portland in a first floor flat. And both me and my wife at the time, above the doors like a glass pane, a bit like what I've got in here. And we were both there reading. And we all of a sudden both just looked up and we just saw this face looking through the glass pane. I went, God, he's tall. And this is going back like the late 70s, early 80s. And but over the years, I've seen quite a few things. So I joined a paranormal group called Wirral Paranormal Investigations, which was run by a guy called Paddy Blackmore, who's no longer with us. He's probably looking down now, listen to this. And after a few months, he asked me if I'd be the chairman of the group, because he said he was too old to go out investigating. I said, yeah. But I was with them for about 2-3 years, and I noticed that members of the group, because it was a big group, they would start to focus on the likes of UFOs and crystals and all that. And all I wanted to do was go out and investigate haunted buildings, in the middle of the night, and that was my aim. So I remember we all went to Anglesey because we were doing all the standing stones around there and what have you. And I just said to a few of the team, I'm leaving, I'm going to form my own group. They said, oh, we'll all come with you. So formed Supernatural Encounters Association. And
what was it like in Anglesey? Because you got all that druid energy there. Did you ever see anything around the stones in Anglesey?
No, but we definitely felt the energy. That would definitely, because there was two big stones, standing stones facing each other. And if you stood in the middle, you could actually feel the energy going, from it one to the other, which was interesting. And another interesting one, we investigated Denby Castle, and we were there, and it was in the summer because we walked around in t-shirts around about 2:00 in the morning, and I just happened to walk through part of the castle which had above the doorway kitchens, and as I walked through, I thought, "Oh, where's that cold come from?" And I walked in, and I thought, it's warm. And I walked back through it and I thought, whoa, it's definitely cold. And I thought, is this a portal? So some of these members come over and said, just walk through there for me. So I said, just walk through, because I would never tell anybody anything. Whenever we went on vigils, I didn't say nothing. There's no point. You tell people, it's in the minds. They've got it in the minds and what they're going to see and that. So they walked through and they were going, where's that cold coming from? Every one of them. But where's that cold coming from? I went, you tell me. And he went, it's just here in the doorway, isn't it? I went, yeah. And that was really weird. And then, going back to one of the other houses where I moved to, and we had a dog, and that kept looking up in the corner and barking and growling. Thought, oh, well, there's another house with something in it. And it was the spirit of a little boy. And we had a young son then, and I used to take him to bed, and I'd sit on the top of the stairs. And this one evening, I heard him talking. I thought, who's he talking to? So I went in, and he was sitting up. I said, who are you talking to? He said, there's a little boy on the end of my bed. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So we knew this, well, my wife's mum, my ex-wife's mum, I should say, knew this lady was a medium. And we went to see her, and she said, didn't tell her nothing, just said, there's something going on, can you come and have a look? So straight up the stairs into my son's bedroom, about an hour, come down and said, there's a little boy, he was connecting with your son, but I've moved him on now. I said, oh, right, okay, that's great. But the funny thing was, when my wife left work, they gave her this glass clown as a present. And at the time, I hated clowns. And it was a horrible thing. And we had it on the side, like this side I've got here, side thing with hi-fi on. And we were sitting there watching telly, it just flew off the side and snapped in half. And I was like, yes.
Brilliant.
And she was like, oh, what happened there? I said, I don't know, but it was good. But she managed, because it was only snapped in half, she managed to glue it together. And I thought, oh, God, I'm still going to put up with it. And then, obviously, whoever was in there must have known I didn't like it. And it flew off again about a week later. And this time, smashed to bits. I went, thank you very much, whoever you are, thank you. But all the investigations I've done, I've never, ever felt threatened or anything.
Is there like a set process that you go through when you go into a property for an investigation, or do you just leave it open to possibilities?
Well, in the day, I used to get up to 6 phone calls a week asking for us, for our help. So you spend like a whole weekend going to either one property or 2 or 3, and I used to write everything down. I've got 5 archival files full of the investigations, but I would say to them, whatever you do, don't give me any information. Just tell me briefly. And they'd say, so like, there's definitely something in the house. We can both feel it, blah, blah, blah. The animal, the dog's reacting. That's right. That's all I need to know. And when we'd meet up, me and the team, I'd just say, right, we're going to this house, this address. I'm not telling you anything. There's no point, because then it'll be in your mind. And you'll be thinking, oh, I've seen so and so. I said, that's not the point. I said, you've got to find out for yourself. I said, like I have. I said, you've got to find out what it is yourselves. And I'd ask them all to write everything down in a notebook, even the temperatures and everything. And if somebody was on a chair, say upstairs, and they moved it, they'd have to write down, move the chair, it made noise. And then people downstairs say, heard a noise upstairs, so-and-so time. And then you'd say, right, that's what it was the chair. Because you've always got to look for the natural explanation as well as the paranormal explanation. You've got to look for the natural. Because if you don't, it's again pointless if you say, oh yeah, it's definitely haunted, but you don't know if they are or not until you actually get the evidence. And some of the investigations we've been on over the years, the evidence we've collected that I've got on camera, video, recordings, voice recordings. To me, it's like, well, I know for a fact there was nobody in there, in that room, when I got that recording. Who was it? So, that's the kind of thing you have to look into. But I remember we did one house and a woman said, I keep seeing a black shadow going past all the time. And she had a dog. And I said, can you see it now? She went, yeah, it's going backwards and forwards. And the dog wasn't reacting. And I went, have you ever heard of a thing that you can have in your eye called floaters? And she went, yeah. I went, like black specks. I said, because I've got one in my left eye. I said, when I look like that, it moves. I said, I think that's what it is. Because we were there for like 3 or 4 hours, and picked up nothing at all. Didn't feel anything. I said, I think that's what you're seeing is these floaters. And when you're moving your eyes from left to right, it's moving with you. And she was like, oh, right. So
that must have been quite scary for her at first, thinking that there was.
Well, yeah, because she thought it was somebody going past all the time.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's what it is. I said, but if you still feel unhappy about it, we'll come back again. I said, got my number. She never phoned back. So obviously she must have gone to see an eye specialist or something. But yeah, it's some of the places we've been to, we've got some fantastic evidence over the years. But excuse the pun, COVID killed it.
Right.
Just killed it. Excuse the pun. It killed it. The group Stone Dead.
Yeah.
Because we had up to a week before COVID happened, we had about 5 places to investigate, and everyone cancelled. I just said, yeah, okay, don't blame you.
Yeah. Is there a place that you felt really drawn to when you visited, like you've had past lives there or something?
I think I'm trying to think of somewhere where I felt really comfortable. I think it was I can't remember the name of the place now, but it was a big mansion type place. And as soon as I walked in, I thought, oh, I like it here. I like it here. I thought, I feel really happy and comfortable here. And I didn't feel the slightest bit nervous or anything. And everyone was saying, you look really relaxed and chilled. I said, yeah, I feel great in here. I said, I don't know why, but I feel really, really good. And they were saying, do you find it a bit creepy? I was like, no. And a place that I used to work with, Backford Hall, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's just outside Chester. It's been converted into apartments now, but it was run by the council. I used to work for the council. Prior to working there, I read in the local paper that staff was seeing spirit. So I just got in touch with them and I said, "Yeah, any chance to come and investigate?" And he said, "Yeah." So as soon as we walked in, I just thought, "Whoa, this is active." And I went on record to say it was the most haunted place I've been to, because it had about between 8 and 10 spirits in there. They were all like just walking around, milling around, and I remember seeing one lady stand down the long corridor, and it was as if she was trapped, that she couldn't come any further. Because I said, "Why don't you come closer, come closer?" And it was like she couldn't. So I said, "Can you do this?" And I just went. That's what we all heard, two boom, boom, loud bangs. And I said, "Well, if you do that, try and move towards us. We're not going to hurt you." And then other members of the team saw a lady in a blue dress going up the stairs. I saw her as well. You could hear the sound of the crinoline dress, as if a lady was walking on the landing, what have you. And the sound of a dog walking around as well. And I'd put that down as the best one. And then I got a job there. So in the end, yeah.
They probably didn't want to let you leave.
And I went there to do me, 6 months to do me MVQs in administration. And the officer went into the manager went, "You're the ghost man." I went, "How do you know that?" He said, "You came and did this place, didn't you?" I went, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, I read all about it in the paper." He said, and at the end of my turn there, he said, "I'd give you a job any day." And 2 weeks later, got a phone call, "Mike, there's a job here if you want it." And I thought, So I went on to do about, 4 or 5 more investigations there. And every time it never failed to impress us. The evidence we got and all that. It was just brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic.
What's the difference between a ghost and a spirit?
Well, a spirit is a being that can interact with you. It can, and if it's passed on, it doesn't want to leave the building, it can stay there. A ghost is like a recording. So if you see a ghost going through a wall, they're just going through what used to be a doorway. All they can see is a doorway there, and that's just like a recording. It'll go over and over and over and over. But with some spirits, you can interact with them. You can communicate with them, and they will communicate back if they've got enough energy to do it. Yeah.
Do you think that the spirits are attached to the land or the property?
It can be either, Julia. It can be the land or the property, because sometimes even new builds can be haunted, and that could be whatever was on the land before the new build. Say if there was a big old mansion, they knocked it down and built an estate. I wouldn't be surprised if Backford Hall, the apartments there, if there's things going on there, I wouldn't be surprised. But I remember when the council were moving out of there, they were selling it, and we did the last vigil there, and I said, "Right, this is the very last time we're doing this," and I bet you'll all be happy to know that everyone's moving out, and every one of us heard this very, very loud sigh, as if like, "Thank God for that," sort of thing. And every one of us heard it, and we got it on our tape recorders and what have you. So they can interact with you. I mean, my spirit lady Emily, who I first got in contact with in that building that was across from your anchor, remember me telling you?
Yeah.
I got her talking to me on my digital recorder, and I even said, "If you want me to help you, come to my house." And as one evening, I was in the kitchen. I had a kitchen down at the old house I used to live in, making me tea, and just seen her walking through. Went, "Hello, Emily. Do you want a sandwich?" Didn't bother me, but she just walked through and said, "Say, now you've seen me." And she had a white dress on. I thought, wonder if that was a wedding dress. And I got a recording of saying, I went back a second time and said, I'm Mike, this is my friend. And said, can you tell me who you are? She said, my name is Emily Murray. I'm glad you've come back. And then a bit later, she said, I will never be the bride. And I thought, looked like she had a white dress on. And I thought, so that was interesting. And thankfully, she's still with me now. She followed me from Vicky Road to my bungalow. And it was strange after that encounter that I was on the flea market in Ellesmere Port and I seen this doll on one of the stores, like the way it's been made, it's like a sit-down doll, red hair, but all in ringlets. And I looked and I thought, that's Emily. And I carried on walking. I thought, I've got to go back, have another look. And I went, that's definitely Emily. I don't know why. I just thought, that's Emily. And I walked off again and went back to the woman said, you're back again? I said, how much is the doll? She said, £3. I went, I'm having it. And when I moved in here, all the elastic bands that were on the ends of the plaits were all rotten away. So I just took all the plaits out, washed her hair, and she's now with the hair long, red long hair. And that's the same colour as Emily Murray's.
That's amazing.
Long red hair. And I said, when I communicate with the pendulum and the board, I said, do you ever look through Emily's eyes at me? She said, yes, all the time.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And I was like, really? She said, yes, all the time. And I just thought, well, it was right. I was right to buy that then. Yeah. Unbelievable. It is. It's and I, funnily enough, I watched a program last week on Prime Video. I don't know if you can get Prime Video, but there's a brilliant documentary on called Ghosts and the Hereafter. Absolutely will open people's eyes because there was loads of scientists on, neurosurgeons, and everyone. There was about 5 or 6 of them. Every one of them said there is such a thing as a spirit world. We've witnessed it. And I thought, at last. Oh, and the way they described it, so it was telling me 2 sisters on Thursday went for lunch, and one of my sisters didn't believe, and I said, okay, let's put it this way. What is around us all the time we breathe in to stay alive? And she went, oxygen. And I said, can you see it? She went, no. I said, there you go. I said, what governs us? Time. Can you see it? She went, no. I said, unless you look at a clock, but can you see it? She went, no. I said, there you go. So why don't you believe that there's spirits around? And she went, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I thought that is a brilliant way they said that on that program. And I thought that is spot on way to say to people, if you believe in oxygen and time, why not spirit? Because you can't see them. And I was telling my mate this on Saturday when I went out for a curry, and he said, what was the name of the program? I want to watch it. Because he said, I said, I thought you didn't believe. He said, I am starting to now. He said,
a lot of people are now, aren't they? Because the energy has shifted. So more people are being open to the unknown and unseen. Tell us about Anne Bronte.
Well, right. I was in communication with her on Sunday, and I said about this podcast. I had to explain what it was. And I said, is it all right to mention? He said, no.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm so sorry, Anne.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. Maybe.
Agnes and Emily quite happy.
Yeah.
But Anne said no.
Okay, said, we respect that.
Okay. I said, I won't mention you then. But
they'll have to read the book that you co-wrote with her then, won't they?
Oh, the lady in the library. Yeah. That was weird because I'd never, ever read anything by the Bronte sisters. I had a copy of Wuthering Heights, but I've never read it. And I thought, why have I put the Bronte sisters in my story? Never read anything by them. That's weird. And I finished it. It was only a short story. I finished it and got the pendulum out. And I thought, this doesn't feel right. So I said, who's this? Spell your name. Spelled out, Anne Bronte. I went, did you help me with my story? Yes. Sorry, Anne, I'm talking about you.
Sorry, next time. Well, tell us about Agnes.
Oh, Agnes, right. It wasn't until 2018 that a medium got in touch with me and said, I've got a message for you. And I said, okay. And she said, I'm going to send it to you in an email. It's about your spirit guide. I said, all right, that's interesting. And it was a big, long email and said, your spirit guide has come through to to tell you that she was my spirit guide. She'd been with me since I was a child. And I didn't even know. And I thought, I wonder if that's why every time I went into a haunted place, I didn't feel worried or scared, and I felt like I was being protected. And when I started contacting, I always know when it's Agnes because her yes is anti-clockwise, whereas mine's clockwise and Emily's is clockwise and Anne's is. So I always know when it's Agnes because it's anti-clockwise. And a while ago, I just said, so why are you my spirit guide? Why have you picked me? And she said, because you've seen this, she spelled out, because you see ghosts. And I thought, that's interesting. And I don't know if you know about Agnes Sampson. She was the first lady to be accused of being a witch in Scotland by James I.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, we definitely need to talk more about Agnes on another episode.
Yeah. And
yeah,
early last year and early this year, there was 4 different programs on about her. And the first one I watched, don't know if you've heard of Lucy Worsley, the historian.
no,
She does like programs all about to do with history now. And she did one series called Lucy Worsley Investigates, and the very first one was about Agnes. And I thought, oh my God. And afterwards, and when she was reading out what they did to Agnes, she was in tears, as was the historian as well. And I thought, God, they were horrible in them days. It was the court was all men, no women, but she gave as good as she got. But in the end, because he was torturing her that much, she just said, yeah, I'm a witch. She was a healer and a midwife. And she used to use herbal remedies, to help people. But it was afterwards, I thought, I'm going to get my pendulum out and my pendulum spirit board, my little round pendulum board. And she came right straight through. And I said, I've just been watching a program. And it was all about you, Agnes. And I said, it was really sad. I said, because I never knew what happened to you. I said, and Lucy Worsley was very upset. So was the historian. Next minute, when I played it back, my recorder, I was recording it. When I played it back, you hear her saying, Lucy Worsley. And I was like, whoa.
Oh, that's incredible.
I thought, oh my gosh, she must have been watching it with me. And I thought that was brilliant. And then there was another one on. And I got in touch with her and said, Agnes, there's another program on about you tonight. You might not want to watch it though. But there's been about 3 or 4 on about her. And I thought, how weird is that? No, I thought, this woman who was accused of being a witch, and it was James I. He was James VI in Scotland, James I here. And it was him who started it all. Condemning women and men for being witches. And I just thought she deserved better than that. So when I was communicating with her on Sunday, I said, what do you do in your world? Do you work? And she said, she spelled out, my job is for you.
Oh, that's so lovely that she's just
Yeah.
here to support you on your mission.
Yeah. So I said,
Oh,
oh, thank you. And I said, I don't want to talk about your life when you were on this earth. I said, because it's too upsetting for you. She said, yes. And I said, but do you wear nice dresses now? I said, yes. I went, great. I said, because you know I like women in dresses. And she said, yes. So I thought, good.
next time, do you think you could ask them for a message for humanity next time, and then we can have a chat about the messages that they want to bring forward? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that would be really cool, I think. Yeah.
yeah, because they're quite forward in leaving messages, and I kept when I was talking to Emily the other day, I said, have you got dressed up for me for our date? Because we call it a date now. I said, well, are you happy to be on a date? Yes. And it's like spinning round. When have you dressed up for me? Yes. What have you got on? A skirt. What else?
Sounds a bit like your sister Linda, who said that she had afternoon tea with the spirits.
Yeah. That's it. If they could drink tea, I'd make them one. And I said, what colour's your skirt then? She said, black. I said, spelt out black. So what colour's your blouse? Spelt out cream. I said, have you done your hair nice for me? No. I went, you like it long, don't you? Yes. Okay, so do I. And that's how I look at it. That it's like just like talking to somebody on the phone. It is just like talking to someone on the phone. And I've got the Emily doll looking at me now, and she's probably looking at me this minute going,
yeah.
Hey, he's talking about me again.
That's so cool.
Funny a while ago, because she always, at the end, I always ask them if you want to leave me a message. And Emily always says, I love you very, very much, with 3 kisses.
Oh,
And
that's beautiful.
Anne fell out with her.
Oh.
Yeah, because the other week I said, have you been speaking to Agnes? Yes. You've been to Anne? No. Oh, why not? Jealousy. She spells out jealousy.
Oh my word.
I went, oh no, you can't be jealous up there. And I told her, and she said, no, that's a human emotion. It doesn't happen up there. I said, it does. And I said, because Emily wouldn't lie. And so our Linda apparently looked her up and sent me a screenshot of what this fellow said. The spirit will have all the same human emotions that they did when they were in their life. And our Linda said,
that's fascinating.
yeah,
Because you always think when people go to the spirit world, they're the best, purest version of themselves, right? You don't think having those human emotions.
Yeah, you can still. It's like when I watched some paranormal stuff on the telly, and there's one medium called Chris Fleming, American medium, brilliant medium, and anytime he goes into a building, he picks up straight away on the emotions, and he's like, you had something wrong, and he bursts out crying, and he's saying, I will definitely help you. And I thought, well, yeah, if you still having the feelings, obviously they're going to get jealous, aren't they, as well? But they're talking again now. So I asked Anne, I said, are you talking to me? No, I asked Anne, I said, you and Anne talking now? Yes, so good.
That's funny.
No jealousy, please.
So what advice would you have for somebody who thinks that they've got a spirit in their home? And, what should they do?
Well, if they think they've got a spirit in the home, I'll make sure it is first, and then get in touch with either a medium or a renowned paranormal expert.
How would they know? Should they just ask questions?
Yeah, what I used to do is, because we were quite well known supernatural encounters. So we'd been on the telly and everything, in books and on the radio, and I used to get the phone calls and said, can you just briefly explain why you think you have? And when they'd explain, I said, right, okay, it sounds like there's something there. And we'd go, and more often than not, we'd find what it is, move them on. And what I like about when you move them on, you always get a lovely smell of flowers in the room. Like they've said, thank you, here's some flowers, and like smell of roses or lavender. What I used to find interesting was I used to do, scrying. You heard of scrying when you look in a mirror and spirit can put the faces over you. I always found that very, very interesting.
I find that super scary because I did it once and I saw myself like I'd been on the Titanic and I was just like floating in the water.
well,
And the medium, Chris was like, "Oh, Titanic," and I was like,
"My name's Bob. I'm bobbing in the water." No.
You do. Tell us about your latest book. So I think we'll talk about your other books next time because you've got like 13 books. So tell us about Natasha AI.
Oh, well, Natasha, I don't, well, they're not on the camera anyway, so they can't see it, but Natasha AI, artificial intelligence, came to me. She came to me in a dream. And she came about for a full week. She was there in my dreams. And she explained who she was, what her name was, what she was, an AI. And in my dream, I was like, well, you can't be because you look human, you're beautiful. And she said, that's how I've been made. I want you to write my story. And I thought, well, surely, if you're telling me this, you must be a spirit or something. And in my dream, I was the main male character. In my dream, my name wasn't Mike in the dream, it was Jack. And I was like, this is weird. This is really, really weird. So luckily with me, if I have a really vivid dream, I can get up in the morning, get my notepad and pen and write it all down. I can remember it clearly. I had to do this every morning. I thought, I'm going to write it. I'm going to make a book about this. And I just said, out loud, I don't know who you are, Natasha, if you're spirits or what have you, but I'm going to write a book all about you. And how far have you got on with the book?
I'm still in the first chapter. Yeah, but I'm sorry, but I did find it. I could really kind of step into her character. What year is she coming from?
Well, it's set in the future, set around about.
An idea of the actual year?
Sorry, about 2028, something like that.
Actually, that's not that far ahead. Okay.
Yeah, about 2028, something like that, bit round. But the story progresses over about 10-year period.
Yeah.
But the way I ended it was Jack's ending, the main character, male character. And she came to me in the dream again and said, I want you to write my ending. I thought, I've already done the ending. She said, I want you to write my ending as well. So I've had to do her ending as well.
So do you really think that this is a conscious AI entity that's come forward? Because that's how it feels, like they're in a timeline and they're communicating with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be, because I've never ever had that much information come to me for a book. I mean, poems, I can have an idea in my head and write a poem down or look at a picture and go, oh, I can write a poem about that. But to have Natasha come to me every single night for over a week, I'm like, and then towards the end of the book, I want you to write my ending as well. I'm like, oh, this is mad. And I got stuck at one part because I'd done the endings, but the bulk of the story, but like the 3/4 to the end, I was totally stuck. I couldn't think of anything. I was like, so me being me, talking to my spirit ladies, and because Anne's an author, I said, right, Anne, I've got 3 books I need to finish. So. No, Natasha, yes. I went, well, I need some ideas. And she just spells out on the board, it'll come. And it did. Yeah.
And amazing.
And I finished it. And I've got to be honest, I'm very proud of it. And to me, it's like a joint effort. Yeah. me.
It's available on Amazon now, and it's actually quite a large book. I was surprised at how big it printed because
The paperback, for some reason, don't know why it came out that big, because the hardback's the normal size.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the hardback is just a normal size, but the paperback, when I got my author's copies, I thought, God, the size of them. I thought, but I couldn't.
It's quite a gripping story. So yeah, definitely check out Michael's books on Amazon, because you've got 13 books available. Some of them are ebooks and some of them are print books. So there, you just search for you, Michael JP McManus on Amazon. Have you got a website or anything?
I've got a author's page on Facebook, Michael JP McManus, author, because I've got my own page and my author's page, but you get onto it both, because I now go under all my things I'm on, like Instagram, what have you, and I go under as Michael JP McManus or Michael John Paul McManus. The reason being is a few Michael McManus is about and a few Michael J McManus is about, which is weird because I've been doing my family tree for years now, and the amount of ancestors who are authors, I just totally blew me away.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Came across one the other week. It was on My Heritage, and it said ancestors that were authors, and it come up Edward Douglas Fawcett. I thought, I know that name. So I clicked on it, wrote 30 books. I thought, oh, I've got a way to go now, haven't I?
You're already at 13.
Yeah, I know. But all his books most of his books were set in the future. And the one I bought was called Hartman the Anarchist. And he wrote it when he was 17. It got published 1892. And he was writing about London being bombed by this crazy guy in an airship.
Oh, okay.
Well, before airships were built.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and part of it, but towards the end, I thought, God, this reads like War of the Worlds. When it's getting bombed, London's getting bombed, attacked by the Martians. I thought, this is mad. But I thought, another member of the family who's an author. And on my dad's side, the Irish side of the family, there's 3 ancestors who were authors, and one was called Michael J. McManus. I thought, God.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I think this has been so wonderful. And we would love to have you come back on.
So, will do, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to end it right here so that we can have a private chat with you.
Okay.
We've really enjoyed this. And I can't wait to hear more from your spirit guides as well. It's so
indeed.
Thank you so much.
Okie dokie.